Good evening. This is News.PH, but it's not politics as usual. I'm Pia Ontiveros. Tonight, the Chief Justice, Maria Lourdes Sereno, joins us. Good evening, Chief Justice. Thank you for agreeing to this interview and for welcoming us to the Supreme Court.
Good evening, Pia. And I'm sure that we have a lot of interesting things to talk about.
Yes, definitely, ma'am. Thank you again for joining us. Ma'am, let's talk about the constitutional system of accountability that you are working on at the moment. Can you tell us more about that?
Thank you very much for making that your first question. That is actually key to the success of democracy. For the longest time, we have a constitution that has not really been observed, but rather it's some of its constitutionally designated offices have not been doing as passionately as they should their day-to-day tasks, which is on the part of some of the commissions, taking care of the coffers of the country, on the part of another branch of government, really tending to exclusively lawmaking. For some time in our history, that has not been attended to. Now, when I talk about the constitutional design of government, we have not given this constitution all the best shot that we could have given it by discharging faithfully our designated roles. Just imagine if you had a judiciary that has always been independent and people with lawyers of known achievement, integrity, and probity, and then you have prosecutors who are actively prosecuting cases, investigators who are really building up their cases, defenders of the indigent clients who are doing their job, and then you have a commission and audit that is doing faithful accounting of all the funds of the government, then we would have a well-functioning democracy, regardless of the turmoil of politics. If these offices had only been doing their job well, we could have really a more progressive outlook on life. So yes, I am very intent on leading the judiciary to view their role as not only adjudicating cases on a perfunctory basis, no, but making sure that justice in its real sense comes alive.
What do you mean by that, justice in its real sense?
We cannot have litigations dragging on for years, and we cannot have hearings, especially of detained accused, being reset every 6 years or every year. That is so unjust because you are depriving a person of the chance to be with his family, considering that he will only have a 20% rate of conviction, because that's the rate of conviction right now. So we have to look at it in a really revolutionary way, in the sense that when the Constitution really guarantees to our people a functioning government, each branch, each unit, each agency must consider its role really as a sacred duty to the people. So that is just one facet. And now, with respect to the constitutional or fiscally autonomous agencies of government, you have the 3 constitutional commissions. You have the Ombudsman, you have the Commission on Human Rights, and the judiciary. Then they should understand that basically they are guardians of the people. And they are to be set apart from the mess of politics. They're not to be swayed to and fro by whatever is happening.
So professionalism and non-partisanship.
Yes.
How did we get to that point where you have a government like that?
I think the accountability by the people of these 3 commissions, for example, have not been as strident as they should have been. And I would believe...
Are you saying, CJ, that people should be more demanding?
Yes, of the constitutional commissions, of the judiciary, of the ombudsman, and then of Congress also. Congress should be asking the right questions. They should be devoting themselves to ensuring that the Constitution and the laws are really being faithfully complied with by all sectors of government.
Okay, so it's not enough for Congress to enact laws, to pass laws, to count the number of bills that each congressman or congresswoman is able to file?
Definitely. When they, for example, when they ask us to pass through a budget process, then they should be asking the Commission on Audit, for example, how many government agencies did you audit and what progressive steps have you made to ensure that the people whom you have discovered are really made accountable. So they should have been asking those questions instead of having allowed passivity on their part. And that goes basically to all of us also. And the judiciary itself has to explain to the people that, look, in order for us to function, the Congress must give us the necessary resources and the necessary number of prosecutors and public defenders must also, public attorneys, no, must also be there to ensure that no one is really deprived of his right to his day in court.
Yeah. CJ, exactly how are you trying to execute this? You are coordinating, I understand, with the
Yes.
other offices, the commissions,
Yes.
and Congress. But how are you doing this? You are
I
Chief
am-
Justice of the Supreme Court. This is the judiciary.
Yes. Sometime during the time of Chief Justice Narvasa, the constitutionally fiscally autonomous agencies of government came together and they said that we have to understand what fiscal independence and autonomy from the political branches of government really mean. Now, I intend to be a very active leader of that group. I am the chairman of those heads of agencies, and I keep on saying and repeating every meeting that we have, and we do it on a regular basis, that the survival of democracy in the Philippines depends on us to be really faithful and true to our oath of office. And then I am also head of the Justice Sector Coordinating Council. I sit there together with the other partners in the justice sector, the Secretary of Justice and the Secretary of Interior and Local Government. And I tell them that beyond 2016, when you will leave your offices, you have to make sure that the reform path that we are doing has already taken root in your institution, and no subsequent leader of yours can just undo the reform measures that we are taking to ensure that we have really a well-coordinated, not dependent, no, not influenced unduly by the others, but well-coordinated system in the sense that we have enough prosecutors, we have enough judges, and public attorneys attending to the cases that are really just congesting our courts.
And everybody doing exactly what is
What he's
expected of
supposed-
him or her.
yes.
For example, if you're talking to the SILG, for example, then you're talking about police officers, for example, who are needed to testify
Yes.
in court. Things like that.
That's one major improvement. Every time I go to the judges, you will find out the number of, one of the reasons why there is a very high acquittal rate is that the police witnesses do not appear. And the courts keep on sending them subpoenas, but they just don't appear. They get transferred elsewhere. So I have elevated the level of accountability for this up to the point of making the Secretary of Interior and Local Government account for it. So we have created a system where every subpoena that is going to be sent to the chief of the PNP himself. And he's there to ensure that the police witnesses really come. Now we are piloting this
Kahit saan pa man sila naka-assign na. Because dahil nagbabago ang
well, that's
assignment.
their lookout. Linipat nila. Ba't nila linipat? May court hearing. Di hanapan nila ng paraan para ibalik.
Paano kasi kung matagal ang kaso, di ba? Minsan,
Kaya nga.
ilang taon
Bakit
din.
matagal ang kaso?
Umiikot lang tayo.
Walang prosecutor. Every 4 months lang. Walang PAW. Every 6 months na na i-reset. Kung hindi pwede yung ganung kahabang resetting, at alam ng pulis yung araw na kailangan siya talaga magtestigo, di talaga magtetestigo siya.
Are you saying, ma'am, that we should be, well, people in government, when you talk about the system of accountability like this, a well-oiled system of accountability,
Oo,
everybody
yan.
should be mindful of
Correct.
his or her duty.
They must, ganito, no? Halimbawa, why is it that sometimes I become really moved? I am moved every time I visit the prisons. Because these represent to me broken families. These are people who have only a 20% chance of being convicted, but they're there. And their families are suffering. People must see that when we are inefficient, people suffer, real lives are shattered. Unless everyone in the justice system realizes that we are making people suffer for our inefficiency, it's not going to work. So that is what I'm trying to drive home day in and day out. It is wrong. It is plain wrong, and we cannot have it the basis of business as usual.
Okay. So itong sinasabing justice delayed is justice denied, it works also in the case of those who are accused, because if you delay justice to them, it's like denying them justice, keeping them in prison for so many years.
Yes, and especially these are people who are basically the breadwinners. And they belong to the lowest strata, socio-economic strata. In the first place, they are the ones who are most vulnerable to being attracted by criminal syndicates and being made pawns in large-run criminal syndicates whose ringleaders are not in jail.
Right.
And then when they get there, they could actually, in many instances, they could be freed on bail while awaiting the termination of their trial. But even that liberty they cannot have because they simply are poor. That's why we are reviewing our rules on jail, on holding detention prisoners in jail. Of course, there are also measures from the DOJ and especially from Congress in that matter, but we have to do it in a coordinated fashion. Going back to my earlier description of the police witnesses, for example, the judicial affidavit rule is going to help a great deal. So we're trying to make everyone understand that any undue time is suffering of our people. Any undue time spent waiting for something to happen, waiting for people to talk, to arrive in the same place at the same time, to proceed with the trial, that's simply plain wrong.
Can you specify how the judicial affidavit rule will help in this case?
The judicial affidavit rule will dispense with the taking of the direct testimony. So usually, it takes about a year and a half for the direct testimony to be finished. Because if one witness maybe occupies about 30 minutes to 1 hour of the court's time, and his testimony is not finished, then it's continued for another day. That will take about 6 months to 4 months.
Okay.
It will be reset. Assuming that the direct testimony alone consumes a year and a half to 2 years to even 3 years. And now, for the first time, we are requiring that all direct testimonies be in written form, immediately submitted. You save that amount of time, 2 years.
Yeah.
From the litigation time. Yes. Of course, it does not cover all cases bearing penalties of 6 years or more. But if we are able to ensure that the accused is not deprived of his day in court, simply because of the judicial affidavit rule, who knows, we might even get there to that point. We might even get to that point.
Are you saying, ma'am, that what we are looking at, our target or our objective here, is there will come a day that we will all feel that we are assured of getting justice?
Yes,
in whatever
that is one thing I want to, for us to get to that point in our nation where people can sleep soundly in bed, knowing that their cases are not being traded, knowing that enough attention is being paid to their cases by all participants to the system.
Na hindi porket mahirap ka, hindi ka papansinin, hindi ka tutulungan, hindi ka
Yun ang nakakaawa sa akin kasi in many things already, yung mga mahihirap, kawawa na no? Sa lahat ng opportunities, pati dito pa, api sila. So if we are going to assure them that the system works for everyone, hindi lang yung mayaman. So a lot of effort, a lot of discussion must take place, Pia. For the longest time, yung mga systems sa justice system natin, hindi nag-uusap. Yung mga players, hindi nag-uusap.
Okay. Computerization or IT will help in this regard?
Oo. Alam ba yung e-filing na lang. Nakakapanglumo yung traffic sa Manila. Just imagine, if we allow filing to be done electronically, ilang puno ang masasave natin, yung hindi pa tayo magdadagdag ng carbon footprint because we don't add to the traffic congestion. And the copies can be as easily replicated in as many ways you want to send them to, no?
Okay. Hindi na kailangan truckloads of evidence.
Hindi na. E-notices, yung mga trial na, halimbawa, ang gusto natin yung e-calendaring halimbawa. Yung mga counsel, magpipili na sila ng trial dates nila by agreement. Tapos pipili na sila kasi nasa bulletin board na electronic din. Na-agreehan nila, yan na yan. O kaya may notice na kailangan mag-hearing kasi may motion na final. Ang papadala na lang is SMS and email. O di wala na yan.
Let technology work for us.
Correct. Correct. Maraming paraan.
Okay. The courts have an awful backlog, and this is
Yes.
what you keep saying time and again, and you said it also again earlier. What is the main culprit here? It's a confluence, a consolidation of
Confluence,
factors?
yes. Tama talaga yung decades of neglect by everyone who should have been working together.
So we're playing catch up a little late? Ganun ba yun?
Very difficult. It's a mountain load of work that we have to sink our teeth into. And that's why I was telling the Secretary of Interior and the Secretary of Justice especially, when you leave in 2016, will the process of reform also be at the same pace? That's why I want institutional commitment. Hindi lang personal yan, dapat institutional commitment. So yung mga backlog natin, marami ang drastic interventions na ginagawa tayo, like yung Justicia program, no? We're asking lawyers who are going to work under the supervision of judges and the students also to help make a management plan for the cases. They're not going to look into the
merits of the case.
merits,
Hindi oo.
I-inventory lang unang-una, no? Although we have an inventory system, walang hindi sufficiently satisfactory yung inventory system. And then ibigay yung mga episodes ng kaso, parang naka-index cards, episodes. Anong mga motions kailangan resolve? Anong best way to move this forward? Decide, archive, or what? After they have come up with a management plan, then give the judges X number of months to implement the management plan. And in the cases, in the courts that we have piloted, the initial information is that there is already a 30% declogging. And you are talking about courts with cases of about 900 to upwards of 3,000.
That might be helpful, no, when somebody's making a management plan for you. Because if you're the judge, tapos receive ka ng kadami-daming mga reklamo, araw-araw may hearing
Correct.
ka, ang dami-dami mong basahin, you can get overwhelmed, no? The load is unbearable sometimes.
Unbearable. Kaya nga meron akong project ngayon, yung case carrying capacity. Sabi ko, hindi tao ang mga huwes at ang mga personnel ng judiciary. Work-life balance. Ano ang reasonably kaya ng isang taong gawin in a month without breaking down and without us being unfair to him? So I'm working at a case carrying capacity measurement. Sinashadow ko at nag-survey kami doon sa mga judges. Yun yung may instruments kami to do that. And ang hula ko is we are going to arrive at roughly the area of about 300 will be a reasonable load for a judge.
300 cases?
For
how long?
Live. At any pending time, no?
Okay.
Ang problema, may mga courts tayo may 4,000, may 5,000, may 2,000.
Marami na ang 300.
Pero palagay ko kaya niya yan. Kaya niya. Ang hula ko lang, no? Initial ano ko lang, sense yan. I might be actually wrong, even then, ano?
Okay.
Kasi ang pinakamaganda, kung manageable ang caseload niya, kaya niyang i-conduct ang continuous trial. Yan ang maganda eh. Halimbawa, sinasabi niyo, yung mga cases na sensational ngayon, ang dami-daming defendants or complainants, 10 taon matatapos, yun ang fear ngayon ng mga taong bayan eh. Eh kung i-continuous hearing natin, yung mga cases natin ngayon, kung yun ang maging norm natin, yung complications arising out of being involved in a case, mababawas natin for Filipinos at hindi madaling ma-involve sa isang kaso. It will take so much resources from the entire family for any Filipino to be involved in the case.
Ma'am, last February 25, the Supreme Court heard oral arguments on this not very well-known case. I wonder if you're free to talk about. Anyway, it was on social media. The Supreme Court PI was tweeting about it. Can you talk about this? It's a rather simple case. A person had been convicted of estafa. And the court wanted to see if you could review the decision. Why the interest in this particular case?
The revised penal code is a 1930 law. Obviously, when the scale of penalties was indexed to the amounts damaged in estafa cases, di mabababa yan. Every 10,000 would merit X number of years, 22,000 was the threshold. So that if there is an estafa conviction for 98,000, for example, in today's world, you can merit a maximum penalty of 19 years.
For 98,000
For
pesos, which was a small
98,000.
amount back in the 30s. Okay.
We have another case na ang amount damaged is 137,000, 27 years. So, so are we going to, do we have the duty to review the table, the scale of penalties?
Who should do that?
Ideally, it
Who
should
ha-
be Congress. It should
But
be
is Congress
Congress.
working on that?
We have to ask them that, no? That's why we asked actually if the Speaker of the House and the Senate President could also send a representative to that oral argument. Because we want them to comment on the proposition that we could review it
Yeah.
without awaiting
yeah.
their action.
We have so many laws anyway that are so antiquated.
But really, lawmaking is really not our function.
Yeah.
Except that we have this provision under the revised penal code that talks about excessive punishment. Now, is this already excessive? So
Yeah, for
is
98,000 pesos.
So I think people should be confronted with the fact that we have a revised penal code whose table of penalties are scaled to 1932 prices. Can you abide that? Is there something terribly unjust? I think it is obvious that it is unjust.
So Congress can amend that law? How
Well, Congress can always amend that law. The question before us, should we step in? That's what we're grappling with right now. There's one
you're
side
still
that
grappling
says,
with that now?
well, we are going to deliberate on that. The position of government is we should not. We should wait for Congress to
Can
to
you
move.
suggest to Congress to move?
I think the fact that they were asked to send representatives there and to really speak before the court, I think the message is actually loud and clear.
Yeah. Okay. But does this mean that the Supreme Court will really be the court of last resort?
Well,
Kasi ang mangyayari nito, you are going to perform
it
the
is
function of some
preferred
other...
that issues that have already been deliberated upon in Congress be finished there as a political exercise, as an act of the constitutionally designated body for making laws.
Congress should do its duty.
Every branch of government should do its duty. That's why, at the same time, the reason why we are bringing it up also to public light is we also have to grapple with our consciences in dealing with the situation of this man. Can we affirm his conviction? What about
How
our
long
duty?
has he been in jail, this particular
I'm sorry, that
not sure yet.
that is
Okay.
not an information I have right
Okay.
now.
Ma'am, has the Supreme Court looked into this, whether your orders and decisions are in fact implemented down the line, executed? In other words, when the Supreme Court from up here, Padre Faura, issues a ruling, sumusunod ba sa baba? Does the executive
I myself
implement?
want to find the answer to that question, especially when it comes to the environmental cases. We have issued temporary environmental protection orders in some instances. I want to find out, in fact, if they have in fact been complied with. Yes, I do not have enough data.
But they should,
For
di ba? I mean, if
Yes.
all branches of government, all offices of government are supposed to do their duty, then they should implement and execute without waiting for the Supreme Court to check, hey, are you implementing
Yes.
our order? Parang ganun.
Yes. The courts that receive our affirmance of or reversal have no choice but to execute our decision, courts of origin. But with respect to the other branches, I really have no good sense of the degree of compliance.
When, by the way, does a decision become final?
When the period for filing a motion for reconsideration lapses and no motion for reconsideration is filed, then it becomes final and an entry of judgment is made as a matter of due course.
What do you
Or
mean by entry of judgment?
it's a notice sent by the clerk of court, really, saying that the judgment has been entered in the book of judgments.
Book of Judgments. Okay. In other words, final na final
Ayan
na
na
yun.
yan, oo.
Yun na yun. Okay. Let's talk briefly, ma'am, before we go to break about how the Supreme Court has opened up in just the last year. Now you have podcasts. Your oral arguments are
Yes.
heard live on these podcasts. Can you tell us what kind of a journey it was like to get to that point? Paano kayo nakarating sa ganoon?
Maraming agam-agam dati, no? They thought that it would be breaking tradition too much if we were going to let people listen in on the arguments. But we were persuaded by a very well-argued letter from our chief of the Public Information Office,
Who's
Attorney
that?
Theodore Te.
Okay.
And then I said that why don't we just give it a chance? For all you know, it will not raise the specter of too much intrusiveness as you thought, as you are being concerned that it might introduce into our court processes. True enough, after the first podcast, the justices felt comfortable about it. So it has been well received, and
Yeah.
now they believe that it is a good tool to educate the public about what the Supreme Court really is doing.
Do they know, do the rest of the justices know that for ordinary mortals like us, it's hearing the voices of our justices is comforting? If that's the word.
Well, this is the first time I thought that, okay, this is the first time that I have been given the idea that that it has an assurative effect, if there is such a
Yes,
word.
oo.
What I know is that it makes the public aware that we really
Yes.
ask hard questions. That
Right,
is the first thing
right.
I thought it, the first impact I thought it created. But now that it,
Well, it does make that impact also. Oo.
our questions are very hard,
Yeah.
and they have to answer it.
Oo.
So, just to correct when a small item I gave earlier about motions for reconsideration, either the motion for reconsideration period lapses or it's denied, no? Okay.
Okay.
Just small data. But
Little correction.
the justices are happy actually with the way that the
podcast
public
Yeah.
has in fact discussed among themselves what those questions mean. Now
Yeah.
they
Okay.
understand
So they're happy.
that there is a process
Yeah. Oh,
actually.
we're happy that the justices are happy because the next question is, when will television live coverage be next? Kasi pwede namang 1 or 2 cameras, di ba? And then tahimik naman lahat. Nobody's gonna say a word.
We are supposed to be visually not very
Visible in
publicly seen, no?
Uh-huh. So you can be heard but not seen?
So far, that's the sense, no?
Uh-huh.
Kasi umiiwas ka na nga sa kompromiso by trying not to be mingling around too many social activities because of the conflict of interest situation we have to avoid.
Okay.
Medyo complicated kasi pag halimbawa sabi ng isang justice, no, female justice, gusto kong namamalengke. Paano kung mamamalengke na lang ako lalapitan pa siya. No, it was
okay.
just a joke, no? It was just a joke na hindi pa sila comfortable about that. No, kinakabahan
You said
sila doon
hindi
sa
pa sila, but
Hindi.
you're comfortable. I mean, you're talking to us now.
Wala akong
Wala pa.
choice actually. To a certain extent, I have to represent the face of the judiciary. There has to be a face. No? So, hindi ko ma-avoid yan. Even though I said in my interview and in my several speeches that we have to lead a semi-monastic life.
Okay.
But the Chief Justice has a public role.
That's true.
Yun.
Yeah.
So I'm caught between trying to be as unavailable as much as possible to ensure na yung conflict of interest does not become an issue for me later on.
Okay.
At the same time, may message naman na kailangan marinig ang public.
Exactly.
So I'm trying to balance the two very
Yeah.
carefully.
Okay.
And that's why this is just one of the very, very few interviews.
One of the
I
very, very
give.
few. Okay. Our next question is, there's already been a ruling on the PDAF. When will we see a ruling on that? But you'll answer that question, ma'am, when we come back from the break. We'll be right back after this break. Stay with us. Welcome back. This is News.PH on the Seoul News Channel. I'm Pio Ontiveros. Our guest, Chief Justice Maria Lourdes Sereno. Ma'am, can you tell us when a ruling is expected on DAP?
We are going to deliberate on this before we break up for decision writing recess.
When is
So
decision
soon.
writing recess?
That's May.
May.
So before May, we will be deliberating on this.
Okay, so before May, we can expect a ruling already.
Definitely, it is scheduled already for deliberation.
Deliberation. When is that? When is deliberation day?
Okay, that will be sometime April.
Okay. The ruling on the cybercrime law, that was interesting. It's just an understatement. No? But can the court say that libel should be decriminalized? The Supreme Court, can it say that?
Well, there are already separate opinions that say that it should be, right? So those are their individual opinions. But the majority opinion did not carry that thought. It basically recognized the Congress existence as the more appropriate body.
Okay, so Congress has to do that.
Well, I guess that's the conclusion
Can you suggest
can
that to
draw.
Congress?
We are not. There are suggestions already in the individual opinions right now. So I don't know that the majority will carry that.
Okay.
I don't know. Anyway, it's still on motion for reconsideration.
Yeah.
I don't know whether the language will be very different this time.
In the process of deliberating on the cybercrime law, did the entire Supreme Court, meaning kayong lahat mga justices, did you like take a crash course on the internet and on social media so that you
The
could
moment that it was filed, many of us started reading up. And we did receive a briefing. We did. From experts.
Yeah, like?
It was, of course, in our in executive session. We did from several experts, so that
So
we could
experts
understand. On cyber technology.
Like
There were
were
a lot
they?
of interesting questions. I cannot remember now, but they are professors on IT professors, and key leaders in the IT world.
Did some of you, did the rest of the justices try reading, going through Twitter, going through Facebook?
Well, some of the justices obviously have been engaging in those forms of communication.
Yeah.
Yes. If we are asking of some, yes. But not all of the justices engage in those forms of communication.
When will a ruling on the reproductive health law see the light of day?
More or less in the same period before the decision writing recess in May.
Okay, so we're going to have back-to-back exciting.
And just to clarify, the last memoranda came in only last December. So this is not really too bad. There's really no delay. It was just that the process of argumentation and preparation of memoranda took long because of the number of parties that are involved.
Can you tell us very briefly, although we're not going to talk about the Delphine Lee case, when does a warrant of arrest become or stay valid?
According to the TRO issued by the Supreme Court through its third division, until we lift it, and then the TRO stays valid. By the way, there are also two other TROs. One issued by the first division, another issued by the second division. So these two cases carry some similar issues as that that was restrained by, in the case that was restrained by the third division.
When you deliberate on an issue, ma'am, before the court, is there ever anything apart, above, and or beyond the evidence and the arguments presented that affect your decision? Are
For
there,
me
in other words,
personally.
you and for the other justices, in other words, are there other considerations?
The illegal considerations,
Illegal considerations or
I had
pressure?
better not know about it,
or- yeah,
because
or-
if they're
yeah.
legal consideration, that's really
Oo.
foul, no?
Or pressure in any way or messages from other branches of government?
The
Meron
good
bang
thing
ganon?
about, well, one thing I am so grateful for is that nobody has ever tried to bribe me. Not a single attempt. And the executive department, the president himself, has only told me one thing, to do the right thing. And I've never received any message from him saying, vote this way or vote that way. Now, with respect to what goes into decision making, there are several schools of thought there. But all of these schools of thought agree on one thing, that the judge's decision are really shaped by his experiences. Not only as a judge, but as a human being. Because it goes into the fabric of every decision that involves a bit of intuition. No? Then that to a certain extent, that is also involved in decision making. Of course, the facts must be there, the evidence must be right. But in the close cases, in those cases where the right judgment is not very, very clear, then human experiences really count for a great deal.
Does the inner moral compass also count for a great deal?
Yes, definitely. You cannot stand for wrong. Something instinctively in you kicks against any insinuation that you are condoning wrong.
Okay. Bar exam results are coming out
Very soon.
very soon. No?
Very soon.
Will there be any forthcoming changes kaya in the bar exams?
The baton of overseeing the bar exam will pass from Justice Brion to Justice Peralta. I think first he has to discuss whether his supervision over the bar examiners in the way their questions were crafted, the kind of meticulous care and attention he gave to them is feasible in being sustained by every succeeding justice who chairs the bar exam committee. That is the first question he asked. How much time? How much of his strength was involved in the process?
Okay.
Then is there a way for us to come up with a formula so that we don't rely too much on the individual initiative or level of energy of the chairman, but rather it can be a standardized system. There are a lot of changes that are being discussed, and some of these proposals range from limiting the number of questions, the fields that are going to be covered in the bar exams, to limiting the number of questions, to the quality of the questions that are being asked, and ultimately to the question of what kind of lawyer do we really want to be released and some are saying inflicted in the public. No? So what are the qualities? I was telling the law schools, you know, we in the judiciary, we really don't have time to research so much on those. We are full-time, all of our time is supposed to be consumed making decisions. You have the best capabilities and you are in the best
Position.
fit. So to undertake the study for us, what is the profile, competence profile that our new generation of lawyers should have? So I want them to answer those hard questions with sufficient evidence for us to undertake even possibly major changes in the way the bar
But
exams
do we really need more lawyers? Because, you know, I mean, are we, like you use the word inflicted, are we going to inflict more lawyers on this country?
No,
No.
no.
Don't we have enough?
No, I think we need more lawyers. If you have a population of 100 million, you can expect that there would be a formula for estimating the number of legal disputes that will probably arise among them. Especially because we are seeing, number one, the proliferation of family-related legal disputes, custody, juveniles in violation of the law, marital violence, all kinds of sexual events occurring that the law frowns upon. And our family court judges are the most overworked, one of the most overworked judges. So what I'm saying, and the LGUs are issuing ordinance after ordinance. So if you have a proliferation of LGUs issuing ordinances, and you have a multiplication of family problems compounded by the fact that the parents are often not present, both of them are not present, then you will have to have really a lot of lawyers and judges in the process in order to keep the fabric of society together. For 100 million, can you have 1 to 1,000 lawyers? That means that you have to have 1,000,000 lawyers. Do you have to have 1 to 10,000, one lawyer for every 10,000 population? That means you have to have what? 100,000 lawyers. Or
Do we have the data? How many lawyers do we have now?
The data is still being collated by the IBP right now because the list is made. It has not been purged of even dead lawyers or lawyers who have left the Philippines or non-practicing lawyers. I'm really talking about the number of lawyers that can serve the public who are really in active practice because the corporate lawyers, you cannot count them in anymore to help some. So I really think of legal lawyering as a service. It should not be inflicted, no? But the amount of lawyer jokes running around seems to give you the idea that we are an infliction in society. I don't want that to happen. I want us to be considered as really service providers, reliable service providers.
Very briefly, ma'am, I wanted to touch on the Judiciary Development Fund, only because in August last year when you had your first Meet the Press event, you talked about that. At that time, you said from August 2012 to June 2013, there was 1 billion in JDF and that 800 million had been given out equally to court employees, no?
Actually, not equally. The lower the salary, the higher the rate of the COLA. So it is a progressive rate that's being given.
But so everyone, it's meant to augment income,
yes,
no?
it's called additional COLA. Cost of living allowance. It's required by the law to be given.
And then yung 200M is for
equipment and facilities of lower court of courts where the collections have come from.
Where did they go? Where did that 200M go?
Some of them have been already spent for various equipment that have been distributed to the courts worldwide. Some of them are being used to repair our halls of justice because we have a lot of courtrooms in the country. But they're there and there should not be any fear, no? I think that we are trying to recreate a past incident before in the early 2000s when there was a question about the usage of the JDF. The JDF is intact. The 20% of the JDF is being used for the equipment of the judiciary.
Okay. Do you have the data as to how much is in the JDF between July, so hanggang July 2013 kasi yung 1 billion eh. So from August 2013 onwards,
ginagawa pa yung financial reports namin eh.
Okay.
Because after Yolanda and the earthquake, we have to have a massive reconstruction program. So yung mga data na yan, we will be ready to submit. Anyway, sa COA naman yan, and then eventually it will be with Congress.
Nga naman, how can you declog the courts and work on cases if there is no
Halimbawa,
law of
walang
justice?
korte ngayon sa Tacloban that's functioning. We have to immediately rush money to Tacloban. And then yung Palace of Justice Cebu has been damaged. We have to think of a way immediately to address that.
Okay, let's move on, ma'am. This is nothing personal, ma'am, but how do you react to comments about why you often refer to God and or religion when you speak?
Because it's, I have to be very consistent. It's, if my belief in God is genuine, and if any description of God means that He is the omniscient, omnipotent being that He is, and He determines the destinies of men, then obviously a lot of the decisions I make are based on that foundational principle. So it is unavoidable. If I do not even mention Him, then that's actually hypocritical on my part, being afraid to talk about Him publicly because I'm afraid of being criticized. That's hypocrisy. That's hypocrisy. I have to be who I am to the public. But I have already assured people, and I think you heard this during the interview last year in August, no? That I'm not somebody who opens the Bible and points to a verse and
then uses
I
that
come
in a
up,
decision.
I don't do that. I don't do that. We have a technique that I had to learn through 4 years of very hard work in law school, and that I have been honing in practice. And those are the techniques that I use.
Okay. But you do pray a lot, no? Lalo na before a major decision that you have to make. Everybody needs, like, you pray for discernment, right?
Yes, yes. You have to pray for safety even. When I start my day, I have to pray for the safety of my family. And I have to pray for the judiciary to move forward. Otherwise, if you're just going to go by human strength, the problems of the judiciary that we were discussing with, you wouldn't be very hopeful. You wouldn't be very hopeful. You will get knocked down by frustration more often than not.
Okay.
And you will be distracted by criticisms because you can't have a very long-term view of things.
Yeah, because you're busy replying, responding, parrying,
and then
criticism.
the frailty of human flesh limits your ability to be hopeful.
Okay.
And yes.
Yeah. One such criticism or observation or something na binabato sa inyo. And ma'am, I don't want to dwell on this because we don't have much time. So if you don't mind, just keep your response brief. No? How do you react to all these reports about the state of your mental health?
Okay. Ang
Briefly,
problem,
ma'am.
okay, kasi
We're running out of time.
nakikita naman nila, we have not missed a single agenda day. We have not missed, no meeting has been clipped short.
Yeah.
All work has been finished and on time. We have made much progress. And it is being led by me.
Okay.
The effort is being led by me.
Yeah. So the
Hindi ba
question is,
self-evident yan?
So the question is, parang where is this coming from? Why are you?
Do
people
you
even bringing
think
this up?
that the head of the third branch of government, whose appointment was unexpected, will not, of course, naturally reap all kinds of speculations? Normal yan.
Yeah.
Normal yan. Some people obviously want that appointment to be proven as a failure. So they will not stop. Ang kailangan gawin, huwag mong pansinin. Kasi ayan ang trabaho, diretso ka. So obvious naman kung alin ang totoo at alin ang hindi totoo eh.
Okay. Let's move on. Do you all, when I say you all, lahat kayong justices of the Supreme Court, do you all get along?
But there has not been any court where there has not been any disagreement. That's impossible.
Yeah.
Even kung ang opinion at ang court halos wala ring nagdi-dissent, medyo there's something wrong about
there.
it. No, there's a problem there. That's abnormal, no? And even in an organization, let's say you put 15 people, very strong-willed, very strong personalities. Do you think that it will always be in harmony?
Congenial and
parang imposible yun. Especially because these are strong-minded people. Hindi talaga. But look at the objective fact. In all our adjudicative processes, not a single clip has been missed. Ibig sabihin, it's professional. The disagreement is even on a professional level. And there's a lot of congeniality in the court. Contrary to the impression of people, the justices get along well. Now, the degrees of closeness vary. Pero nagkakasundo kami, nakakatapos ka ng trabaho.
At minsan kahit sa isang deliberation, kung medyo nagkainitan ng ulo, after a while, okay
wala na, tawanan na.
Tawanan na.
Magsasagutan yan. Minsan maiinit, minsan may mga salitang mabibigat na nasasabi. Pagkatapos, kainan na, tawanan na.
Okay.
Sanay ka eh, masasanay ka na gano'n eh. Siguro hindi madaling i-imagine yon for others. No?
It's interesting, you said that, varying degrees of closeness. No? But you all like each other, right? I mean, you get along, like you said.
I appreciate everyone, even those na, Chief, mali yan, ganito sana. Siyempre, you appreciate that kind of, kasi that guy is suggesting something. For all you know, his suggestion might work. Who doesn't appreciate a court that is proactive? I like the members giving suggestions on how things can be improved, that's really very positive.
Okay.
Yun na nga ang problema kasi, because of the fact that I'm not supposed to be talking about our internal deliberations, may mga nagsa-speculate na from the outside.
Yeah.
So, hindi ko na lang pinapansin.
Oo, okay. Would you like me to, or would you like me to like incorporate a segment we have on Town Hall? Because there is this segment we call yung one word, no? And
One word.
actually, this is, I'm not sure this is going to fly, but, I was thinking, maybe it would be nice if like I enumerate the names of the justices and you use one word to describe each one of them, but maybe not.
Ay, wag. Oo, wag.
Dahil may cybercrime law.
Wag.
Wag, no?
Hindi, wag. Pati, I will already tell you. Okay. As a matter of principle, I am generous in my estimation of people. So, you will even find it strange if I look at every person in a very favorable light. Because I try to do that. I give that person the benefit of the doubt. Regardless of what you may say. Sasabihin mo, hindi ba ganyan, nagkaroon kayo ng problema ganyan? Still, I will maintain my generous estimation of him. So,
Okay.
it will be boring.
Okay. What is it like to sit as CJ in an unbanked session? Well, kanina you said, medyo nagkakasagutan, yung ganon. But your experience of sitting there and having to traffic and having to allow someone to speak and
Well, it is first a lot of, again, prayer goes into that, but a lot of preparation also, a lot of work. I prepare days ahead for every NBank session, which means I read the files that I need to read. That's an enormous amount of reading. And I try to understand the positions of the various proponents, no? Because you have to summarize things for every contentious item, no?
Okay.
By the way, some of our most contentious items sa agenda, yung grabe ang debate, hindi alam ng publiko eh. Akala nyo lang kasi yung pinaka-contentious yung mga high-profile cases na pinag-usapan nyo sa media, hindi ganon.
Hindi ganon. Yung mga hindi namin alam na kaso.
Marami kaming kaso na akala mo na involves just two people, pero grabe kung magdebate.
Can you give us an example?
Dapat sa ano yan, mayroon kami isang kaso na kanino ba dapat yung who will decide kung saan yung bangkay ililibing? Yung asawa o yung present na babae with whom?
Okay.
Iba gano'n na, hindi nyo alam yan. But vigorous yan. Ang employee bang ito, contractual o hindi? Ay, ang daming oras na uubos dyan.
Okay. Well, speaking of daming oras na nauubos, we have 7 minutes to go. Let's talk about your family. You refer to your husband as the CJ in the family. But what is, I hope you don't mind, what is your term of endearment for each other?
Well, I call him sweetheart.
Talaga? And he calls you what? It's okay,
ganun
you can
din.
say,
He
ganun
calls
din.
me love.
Okay. And you text each other regularly during the day?
Yeah.
Sino una nagte-text?
Sino una? Kung sino mayroong sasabihin dun sa isa, uy, pakibili ng ganito, uy, tadaanan mo yung ganyan.
Okay.
Uy, wag kalimutan ka na. Anong oras ka uwi? Yun. Depende kung sinong una. Walang habit.
Okay. Okay. So it's a very regular, very normal family life.
Except that I have delegated many of the things I used to do to him.
Like what?
Nag-double na yung burden niya. Siya na mag-iisip kung yung budget sa marketing and everything. Yung
Siya
mga-
nag-grocery.
Hindi, dine-delegate din niya, but he does part of the grocery. But I used to do that before. I used to enjoy even marketing. Hindi siya nagmamarket sa wet market. We have people to do that for us. Pero ang dami-dami na niyang, pati finances kanya lahat. Ayoko na mag-worry. I even ask an allowance from him.
Okay.
Because I cannot even keep track of those things.
Okay. Is he privy to what is discussed in the end? I mean, do you share it with him? Ano yung mga discussions, cases that you
Yung
work
mga
on,
moral
your
dilemmas
readings?
ko. Yung
Moral
mga,
dilemmas?
Halimbawa, what principle should I apply in this particular case? Is it more just? Ganyan. But hindi naman.
Okay.
Hindi
But
niya alam.
that's interesting, moral dilemmas. So, parang he's like a sounding board for you,
Yes.
someone to check in with na, am I doing right?
Yes.
It's like when you, parang when you
Yes.
feel something's not right.
Halimbawa, sinasabi nila, oy, yung leadership mo daw, ganito, ganyan. Sabi ko, should I be stronger in this area or not? So, mga basic principles, he sets me, he reminds me of the important principles I must hew to.
So he's like a lighthouse, right?
Yes.
Like a beacon?
In a certain sense. Talagang sounding board is good and he has a fresh outlook na dahil sa pagod ko siguro nakakalimutan ko na the foundational principles by which you must decide things.
Is he your best friend?
Yes.
Okay. And your children?
I have two.
Two. How old are they?
Two. They are both grown up. Pero ayaw nilang ipagkwentuhan daw.
Okay, wag natin
wag
pag-usapan.
daw silang kasama.
Okay. Sayang daw ang oras. Okay. Sige, balik na lang tayo dun sa asawa niyo. What happens when you fight?
You know,
Hindi kayo
bihira
nag-
kaming
bihira?
mag-away eh.
Okay.
Then we discuss things. And marunong kaming magtimpla ng mood ng isa't isa. When to raise a topic and when not to.
How many years have you been married?
1983, so that's, we'll be on our 34th.
34th year. 83, 93, 2003.
34th.
31.
34th. 31.
31.
31st, I'm sorry.
1983, what
31st.
month of 83?
July.
July, just a month before Ninoy's assassination. Okay. But just about your children, how do they treat you like with deference because you're the Chief Justice?
No.
Walang ganon.
It's always mommy.
Mommy lang. Walang pretend. Okay. Do you have hobbies, interests, talents, pastimes outside of being Chief
I used to
Justice?
draw a lot when I was young.
Draw meaning sketch
Draw,
with a
sketch.
pencil?
Yes, pencil. And pencil and pen, no? So, but I had to give that up when I was in the hard-nosed practice of law and teaching. So, there is an artistic part in our family.
Okay. But you don't do anything for relaxation?
I watch movies a great deal. Sa
okay.
bahay.
Sa bahay. You don't go to a theater?
Masyadong complicated.
Why? What's complicated?
Oo, security arrangements will have to be, ano ba, secure ba yung location ng theater na yun, ganyan. Ilang
okay.
popcorn ang bibilhin ko kasi yung mga bodyguards.
Okay. Okay. So, but you watch movies at home. So,
Yeah.
it's like catching up on the movie. So, what were the last 3 movies you saw at home?
At home.
You
Would
know?
you believe I just watched a replay of Gone with the Wind again? I must
okay.
have watched it 3 times already.
Okay. Wait, DVD or sa cable?
Sa HBO, sa cable.
HBO.
Sa cable,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
You prefer
But
those
I
kinds of
have
movies?
also DVDs.
Okay, but you prefer those kinds of movies?
Oo. And then, no. Even after Gone with the Wind, I watched Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings.
Siguro 12th time ko na.
Okay. 12th time, you can watch it again and again.
Hula ko. Yeah, I really like it.
Okay. What else do you like to do that you can't do?
Now?
Yes.
Well, just the moment I get out of my door, kasi I have to be conscious about how I present myself to the public. I'm a public person already. Yun ang mga concerns. Hindi ko concern at all noon.
Okay.
That is one part that you will miss. I miss that, definitely.
Okay. You have how many more years as Chief Justice, ma'am?
16 years and effectively 4 more months.
16 years and 4 more months. Okay. Final words?
Well, the hope of our country to stay on a democratic course rests a lot on the professional organizations of accountability, staying true to their course. And I'm talking about the judiciary, the ombudsman, the 3 constitutional commissions, and the Commission on Human Rights. Of course, together, of course, the AFP is also there, no? But they're not they are under a political agent, that's the president. But if these 6 agencies hew to their constitutional mandate day in and day out, we will have a better specter, or we will have a better chance of democracy really being robust in this country. What we must not forget is that it is not, while politics is part of the equation that will determine our country, it is whether public servants like us do our duty faithfully on a day-to-day basis outside of the line, out of the public eye, that will determine our future.
And no matter who is in power.
No matter who's in power. If COA had been doing what it is recently doing, decades ago, this fund mess wouldn't have been as dismal.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chief Justice Maria Lourdes Sereno. Thank you so much
Pia.
for agreeing to this interview. Thank you so much, ma'am. And thank you for joining us. See you again next Wednesday. Thank you and good night.